Hi, in this video I'll be going over how to find stocks that had an IPO over the last X bars in ThinkorSwim. I will also go over how to further refine that list of stocks so that they meet the average daily dollar trading quantity that I'm looking for. So, looking at our agenda, first we'll go over disclaimers. Second, going into why this filters. Third will be how to check the results. Fourth will be what filters are needed. This is where it's actually made. The first filter will be with finding stocks with IPOs. In this example, using 5 years, but you can just change a number to change this variable to what you're looking for. I in my world of stocks that I trade, I have a requirement that at least $25 million is traded for that stock on average each day. So I'm adding that filter in as well. We'll go through the results and compare it to a list that was generated using different charting software. And then last, how to save this scan so that not it doesn't take as long to recreate it. Um, with that, let's go ahead and jump into the disclaimers. First off, most importantly, is I am not a financial planner or investment advisor. I am not offering any kind of advice. I'm also not a representative of Schwab or I'm not a representative of Schwab or Thinkorswim. Any comment that might be interpreted as an endorsement or criticism is my sole opinion and should be dismissed as such. Basically, don't listen to me for anything important. Um, I'm not trying to sell or promote anything with this video. The main purpose of this video is to help me avoid spending excess time recreating the same process again in the future if I have to go back and recreate this. Um, a second reason for making this video is to help anyone who might be looking to create the same process. Hope this video can save you time and effort. That being said, I'm not an expert ThinkorSwim user. I'm evaluating the platform to determine if I should replace my current charting software with the ThinkorSwim platform. If you choose to use the contents of this video, you'll need to double check the results to make sure they're consistent with what you're looking for. Again, I'm not an expert ThinkorSwim user. I'm only human, likely to make mistakes, so question everything you see in this video. Well, with that out of the way, I guess sort of the one last thing I was mentioned is like I'm not trying to generate a YouTube following or become an influencer or sell or endorse anything. As a result, this video will have little, if any, editing, so it comes with warts and everything. This brings us to sort of the second thing, which is why do I want these filters? The main reason is that I like to maintain watch lists of stocks that had IPOs within the last 5 years, 1 year, and 1 month. So it's nice if I can have my charting softwares sort those out for me. Um, in my experience, another requirement that I have for mostly everything I trade is that I want my stocks to trade at least $25 million each day on average. So I'm going to add in that filter as well. Once the scan is done, need a way to sort of give it a check to see, is it working correctly? And if the way I did that was I simply ran that scan with my other charting software and made that list. I think it's maybe like the first 12 or so. This sort of goes not everything lined up, but there's explanations for that, and I'll get more into that. But basically, the scan that I get out needs to agree with what I had before to give me confidence that I set this scan up correctly, at least to my satisfaction. Um, so in order to sort of set these scans up, some code is needed. I'm by no means an expert at coding. I rely very heavily on AI platforms. Um, and I think this is sort of a good spot to remind myself and give a warning to others who may be doing the same, which is, in my experience, there's usually some sort of ambiguity with how questions are phrased when they're submitted to AI. And as a result, what you get back from the AI platform might not be exactly what I'm looking for. Um, it seems that AI is a great starting point. Again, this is my sole opinion, but at least with everything that I've submitted, I always need to give it a double check. And I think it goes back to just right. There's many different ways to phrase a question, and if AI doesn't understand it the same way that you think you're phrasing it, that ambiguity can sort of give you some results that aren't exactly what you're looking for. Usually, about half the time, I usually need to edit it so that the result fits my purposes. So I find it's a great starting point, but not something I blindly follow. It always gets a double check. Oh, must be 4 o'clock. I think my ThinkorSwim platform just told me the market closed. Was probably what that bell's ringing. Yeah, it is 4 o'clock. So, anyways, getting back to this, this is the code for um, using for figuring out how to find IPOs within the last 60 months. But anyways, let's get back to how this is actually done. So, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be scanning within the S&P 500. Just as a habit of mine, I always exclude over-the-counter stocks. That's just not a world of stocks that I'm interested in trading in, so I just exclude those. This is just sort of a generic um, uh, stock filter that you can put in. So essentially, what you do is once you've identified your list you want to scan in, and any list you want to exclude, you can get rid of any filters that are there. We definitely want to set our filters up where all of our filters are followed. And what we're going to do is add a filter as a study. What comes up is, at least for me, has always consistently been this ADX crossover. And for this filter, need to go with custom. Um, Now, for doing these IPO IDs, I find that it is best to use the monthly bars. It just makes the math easier. Um, Before making this video, as I was sort of testing things out, I initially was using weekly and monthly daily bars, and the results I were getting were not consistent. It's a very long story done over multiple different lists. But when I used monthly bars, everything um, came out as I expected. Any sort of discrepancies, there was a logical explanation. So I can't offer an explanation other than to say for me it worked best when I used monthly bars. So set the aggregation to monthly. At that point, we need to go to the ThinkScript editor and delete whatever is associated with that. Then we're going to simply paste in the code that AI generated for this filter, copy it, we're going to paste it in. Everything in between the hashtag is essentially just notes that you can add for yourself. And the function that's used is number bars, and we're setting it to less than 61 because I want to include 60 months, which corresponds to 5 years, to be part of that data set. So the big assumption here is that the very first price bar or very first bar in the history will correspond to the when the IPO was set. So if the first bar was within 5 years, the IPO was within 5 years. Um, Hit OK, you've got that filter in. As I mentioned, that also needs to be further refined to stocks that have in, at least on average $25 million traded in it daily. So again, another study filter, going to make it custom. For this calculation, do you want to use daily bars, so we can leave that aggregation period as daily. Go to the ThinkScript editor um, and delete the code that was there. Here we're going to now use the code was generated for that, and I'll give some explanation for that after it gets pasted in. So again, the note in between the hashtag refines the list of stocks to only those that trade on average $25 million per day. So here what we have is basically the argument that the closing price of the bar times what is this part right here, average, corresponds to the 50-day volume average. So that average time this will close needs to be at least 25 million or more. Um, then hit OK. So we've got our two filters in. We've got our list that we want to scan and list to exclude. Then you just hit the scan button. So part of the checks is make sure we're beyond that 25 million on day average. And this column here essentially does that calculation. It's done by millions of dollars. I can show that code quickly here. What it does is it just simply takes the close again times the average volume uh, over the last 50 days. You can see it's pretty much the same thing. In this case, instead of making it be greater than 25 million, simply divide it by a million so that the result is displayed is how many millions. So you can see when this is sorted sort of from smallest to biggest, we can see that this SOLV ticker on average over the last 50 days has traded about 87.5 million. And Robinhood, since this is in millions, corresponds to 3,353.19 million or 0.19 dollars on average. So here are results. I'm going to go back to alphabetical. And now that we have those, we're going to compare them to what the other charting software found. So if it's in this column, confirmed means it was in both of them. So Apple was there, CEG, Coin, EXE, GEHC, GV, Hood, KVU was there. Next one on the list for the other charting software was SOLV, but it's RVTY for ThinkorSwim. So that was put at the bottom of the list. And in this case, it is in this column means TOS is ThinkorSwim. It was extra, so it showed up in the ThinkorSwim scan, but not in the scan using the other software. So that was after KVU. Next is SOLV, which was in both. SW in this case was in the results from the other charting software, but you can see is not in the ThinkorSwim. So this column is ThinkorSwim missing. After that is TKO, which showed up in the ThinkorSwim but not in the other software. So that was added at the bottom here. And again, that sort of it showed up in ThinkorSwim but not the other software. And then VLTO showed up in both of those. So since these are highlighted, we'll just go ahead and go into that. So I looked into TKO, and so it showed up in our ThinkorSwim software, but not in the other. It turns out the TKO was not listed as being in the S&P 500 and the other charting software. So I did a quick Google search and confirmed that TKO entered the S&P 500 in March of 2025. Today's date is actually December 12th, 2025. So it just turns out this is sort of a strike against the other software charting package that I use, and that it did not correctly identifies TKO as being in there. RVTY again was in the ThinkorSwim software, and this one's probably best if we look at the charts. So let's just go to SPY as we can see that our time frame is set to 10 years on the monthly scale, which you can see we're right at the beginning of 2026, and the first bar on here corresponds to January 2016. So it's correct. 10 monthly bars, 10 um, 10 years worth of data. And again, what we're looking for is the ticker RVTY. So we'll type that in, RVTY. Oh, TY. And we can see, maybe we just hit return, that if we count the number of bars, which will show up in this blue box here, we go to the first one. Within ThinkorSwim, it says there's 36 bars of data in there. So within the filter, which said it needed at least or needed less than 61 bars, this has been correctly identified. If we look at the results, we'll see, okay, this showed up in ThinkorSwim, and the reason why it did not show up in the other software is when I went back and looked at it, it had data going back to the mid 1980s. I looked; they both actually had the same closing price in real time, which made me think they were both looking at the same ticker. Obviously, the letters matched. I double checked with Yahoo Finance, and that also had data going back to the somewhere in the 80s. I think it was about mid 80s. So this one's actually a strike against ThinkorSwim. For some reason, it doesn't have all the data with the ticker RVTY, which is why it showed up. So that's those two. The only one that was also not in agreement was SW. So it was not flagged within the ThinkorSwim software, but it was flagged in the other charting software. So if we go to that one and hit SW, we can see that if we look down here just on the yearly scales, it's got 10 years of data on here. So with it having 10 years of data, it would not have passed that filter of having less than 61. So it correctly excluded that result. Going back and looking at the data and the other charting software, that had less than 60 monthly bars in it. So it seems like some of the, or at least within ThinkorSwim and the other software, they both had incomplete data sets. I don't have much experience with any other charting software, so I don't know if this is common with the charting software that's out there, or maybe this is just sort of a glitch or bug, or just specific to both of these two. Um, Everything else pretty much lined up. So overall, I especially given that ThinkorSwim came with the Schwab account that I opened up, whereas the other one's roughly, I think $50-$60 a month. I'm okay with that for my purposes. Anyone watching there would have to decide that for themselves. Um, the other filter in here was the average daily volume. That's listed here in the millions, as I talked about earlier. So this just brings us to the last thing, which, as I'd mentioned, saving it. This actually came from a conversation with a friend of mine who had pointed out and said, you can save these queries so that you don't have to recreate everything. Now, obviously, I'd mentioned I'm interested in the lists, but instead of 5 years down to 1 year, it's just simply changing this variable. I'm go back and I'll make another one where I have less than 13 months, and I'll save that under a different name. But anyways, the way that's saved is you have to be within the row of your setup scan. At the far right, there's what looked like sort of bullet points with lines. You click on that, and then you can save the scan query. When you do that, it'll ask you what you'd like to change it, save it to. I'm going to cancel because I've already saved it. When you load it, it go under your personal, and I saved this one as IPO in the last 60 months and 50D daily average dollars of greater than 25 million. So that's it. Thanks.